find the average rate of change given a table or a graph. So let's take a look at our first example here. For our first example, we want to find the average rate of change of f of x from x equals -2 to x equals +2. And we're given a table of values to figure out this average rate of change. So let's start with our formula. Average rate of change is equal to f of x sub 2 minus f of x sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now let's see, we are given our two x's in the example, so we are given x sub 1 and x sub 2, so we can go ahead and plug those values in. So we're going to get f of 2 minus f of -2 all over 2 minus -2. Alright, so then to evaluate f of 2, we just need to look at the chart. We can see that right here x equals 2, which means f of 2 is going to be 52. Minus, then we can go to the chart, we can find x is -2 right here, which means f of -2 is going to be 48. And that's all over 2 minus a -2 becomes 2 plus 2. So this is going to give us 4 over 4, or an average rate of change of 1. Alright, next up we're taking a look at finding the average rate of change given a table again. And here we're asked to find the average rate of change from x equals -2 to x equals 4. So same thing as last time, except now we have a vertical table as opposed to a horizontal table, but fortunately that changes nothing. So let's see, average rate of change is going to be f of x sub 2 minus f of x sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And the problem tells us that x sub 1 is 2, x sub 1 is -2, x sub 2 is 4, so we can plug those values in, giving us f of 4 minus f of -2 all over 4 minus -2. And continue working. Let's see, we can come over till we find x equals 4 on their table, and we see that f of 4 then is going to be 3. Then we need to find -2 on the table. There's x equals -2, which means f of -2 will be 27. And that's all over 4 plus 2, because minus a negative changes into a positive. Alright, we can continue simplifying this. 3 minus 27 is -24. 4 plus 2 is 6. And then -24 divided by 6 is -4, which means the average rate of change for this particular question is -4. Alright, next we're moving on to graphs and finding the average rate of change by gathering information from the graph. So I'll find the average rate of change here from x equals -3 to x equals 2. So I'll start out the exact same way. Average rate of change is f of x sub 2 minus f of x sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. And the problem tells us x sub 1 is -3, x sub 2 is 2, so let's go ahead and plug those values in. Alright, so now, instead of being given a table, we're given a graph to figure out what our function values are. So if we take a look at the graph, let's look at the graph for x equals 2. We can see that x equals 2 is going to be along this line right here. And if we look at where this highlighted line at x equals 2 intersects the graph, we can see that this is going to be our point at 2, -1. So we can see that the f of 2 value is going to be -1. So it's going to be -1 minus. And then we can do the same thing for -3. So here's x equals -3. We just need to figure out where that highlighted line intersects our graph. And it intersects our graph at the point -3, 3, which tells us that f of -3 is going to be 3. And that's all over 2 plus 3, because minus a negative is positive. And continue simplifying, we're going to get -4 over 5. And then we'll just bring the negative to the front to get -4/5 as our average rate of change. And one final example with the graph. Same thing here. Find the average rate of change of f of x from x equals 2 to x equals 5. So they tell us x sub 1 and x sub 2. So the average rate of change, let's write down our formula. And then we can substitute our values in, giving us f of 5 minus f of 2 all over 5 minus 2. Then, to the graph. So on the graph, we can first start off with x equals 5, which is this line right here. And then let's see, where does this highlighted line at x equals 5 intersect our graph? Intersects it right here at the point 5, 4, which tells us f of 5 is going to be 4. Next up, we need to find where x equals 2, which is along this highlighted line right here. And let's see, the highlighted line intersects the graph right here at 2. So this, this point is 2, 2, meaning f of 2 is going to be 2, and that's all over 5 minus 2. We can simplify to get 2 over 3 as our average rate of change. And all right, folks, that is it. That is finding the average rate of change given a table or graph.